Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Reed Financial 7292 and it says, am I the arsehole still? Because I grew from the divorce and became the husband/father my ex had wanted me to be. I was the arsehole, I know it. My ex and I, 40s, married in college, in our early 20s. We went from living in the dorms together to being married and living on our own in another state, due to my job. We enjoyed the honeymoon period with each other, along with being young 20-somethings in an exciting new city. Not long after being married, she was pregnant and our first child was born a few months after our first anniversary. She was a stay-at-home mum. I picked up overtime to cover everything. She matured way faster than I to support the baby. I was still closer to being a college dorm student than I was a husband/father/equal. We had constant fights how I wasn't doing enough to help or supporting her physically or emotionally. I kept trying to tell her how I was doing enough, how I worked 80 hours last week, how I changed a diaper last week, how I cooked my own meal just for me so she wouldn't have to, etc. She would explain her problems and how I could help her, but I didn't hear them. I just wanted to argue. I used weaponized incompetence before that term was coined. In my mind, I was working hard and she was just being unrealistic and couldn't see how much I did. In reality, there was far more work than I had realized. My ex was drowning and asking for help, and all I would do was argue with her about how there was no way she was drowning. Things would improve every few months, partly because I would do a little more work. Partly because she just internalized her frustrations and stopped initiating conversations about them. We had another child during this time, but this soon added even more stress and the fights grew even worse. Eventually she said she couldn't handle it any longer and moved in with a family a few hours away. I tried to win her back through love bombing, again, before I knew what that was, and figured she would come to her senses. And so I was extremely surprised when I got served the divorce papers. I couldn't believe it. I never cheated on her. I didn't abuse her, had no vices, we loved each other. How could she be divorcing me? Yet, she did. And when we met with lawyers, I was taken off guard by how much resentment there was towards me. Where had that come from? We agreed to every other weekend visitations. The first time I had to take care of my two toddlers on my own for 2 whole days was an eye-opener. I'd done it once or twice when married, but she had prepped everything, pre-made the meals, picked out the clothes, cleaned the house, etc. I was still learning how to consistently do the laundry and wash the dishes every day and pick up after myself. I had gone from living with my parents to living in the dorms with roommates who constantly cleaned, to living with my ex. I knew how to take care of a house, but never had to do it all on my own. Someone else always picked up the slack, and now I was fully responsible for that and for 2 little lives for 48 hours. I remember being completely overwhelmed and hit by a huge wave of empathy and understanding of where she had been over the past few years and what I had done to her. I apologized to her, but that only made her angrier. So I grew up. I vowed to making the most out of each weekend with my children. I learned how to cook. I actually liked cooking. I learned how to braid hair. I bought tons of unnecessary toddler supplies and packed them all in the stroller just in case my kids needed something on a walk, etc. On my own time, I picked up new hobbies and went to the gym. I read the non-fiction, how-to/relationship books that my ex had been begging me to read. Overall, I worked on myself and tried to become a super dad to my kids. A couple of years after the divorce, I started dating again. Being a single dad in my late 20s was a turn-off to a lot of women, and I was rejected often. But I found myself being matched with other single mums and really connecting with them. I eventually met my now wife, a single mum whose ex had abandoned her for someone else and wanted nothing to do with their children. And to her, I was the perfect catch. A loving dad who worked hard, did the household chores, and was devoted to her. I learned from my mistakes in my first marriage and took all the criticisms my ex had made about me to heart and improved from them. I became the husband my ex tried to make me into. I still slip up and still have a lot to learn, but I do that with the support of my wife. I would still see my ex every other weekend and the relationship improved somewhat. but there was still an undertone of resentment in each interaction. She went back to school, got a job, raised our kids as a single mum. I tried to get more visitation as they got older, but she fought back, and due to them living too far for daily visits, I only got longer summers with them. I have no idea about her dating life. I never asked the kids about her, but she is unmarried. I know very little about her life. She could be very happy and enjoying everything, but within our few interactions, very little of that shows. Now our youngest is a senior and going to graduate, and I've been talking to my ex more to prepare for it. It's mostly cordial, but occasionally hints of anger and passive-aggressive comments come out. I thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children and raising them, and again apologized for never being there or taking her seriously all those years ago. I still feel like the arsehole though, sometimes because of how she understandably treats me, and other times just from my own guilt of how I treated her when we were married. She is about to have an empty nest after devoting her life to children when I failed her, and I'm living the suburban family life we had planned for, but with someone other than her. Am I still the arsehole for learning from my divorce and becoming the husband I should have been with my ex? You know, it's hard to call you an arsehole in one aspect because you've grown and changed and you've become a better person for it. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we all strive for. But I think to your ex, you're always going to be that arsehole. That resentment is always going to be there. You know, the why couldn't you have done this for me kind of thing. The unfairness that she had to struggle as a single mum. Well, you know, you had another family. You've been living your life. And she's been doing the majority of the work with the kids whilst, you know, you had the more fun weekend dad role, if you like. But Three-Wheeler of Doom says something similar. Not the arsehole for growing and learning and apologizing. However, your ex probably doesn't see it the way you do. You see it as you getting a rude shock, divorce, and realizing just how much you let your ex down, and that you needed to become an adult and be able to parent your kids. And to your credit, you seem to have done exactly that, which is admirable. Your ex might see that you refused to listen to her, refused to deal with any of the issues she was struggling with, and made her life a lot harder than it should have been. Now she sees you with your wife, and the perfect life that should have been with you. But you wouldn't/couldn't give that to her. So she might be feeling that she wasn't good enough, that you didn't love her enough to do all that you do for your wife now with her. That sort of resentment can be lifelong, because every time she sees you, she asks herself, why wasn't I good enough to be treated the way he treats his wife? Which means you will always be the arsehole for her. Of course, that's just speculation on my behalf, and I could be totally wrong, but I had a friend who went through something similar. And 20 plus years later, she still gets upset because she feels that she wasn't good enough. A psychopath says, you need to understand that you will always be the villain in her story, that you hurt and abandoned her so deeply when she was at her most vulnerable. You can't fix what you did or didn't do. That becoming a good husband and father only hurts her more because it means you are capable of being that man, just that you didn't care enough about her to do it for her. Whoever you are now will never fix who you were or what you did. The second best thing you can do is accept all of that. The best thing you can do now is to be upfront with your now grown children. Be brutally honest about how you failed as a husband and father with your ex. Help them to not make the mistakes you did and to understand that part of their family history. Waste Ad says, when someone treats you like trash only to come back and be better for somebody else, it makes you feel horrible about yourself. Why didn't he love me? Why wasn't I enough for him to make these changes when I needed him? What's wrong with me that he could treat me so poorly, but treat his current wife like a queen? I wasted my youth on someone who didn't even value it. All of those are probably feelings that she's had over the years. And seriously, dude, she's still been doing the heavy lifting. When would she have time to find someone? Never mind this whole movement of men who have now started shaming single mums and making them feel like they're less than. So good on you for improving, but yeah, you're still the arsehole. How would you feel if your current wife did this to you? Would you feel valued or worthy of love? Charming Changeling says, OP, I have a question that you may not have considered. Your ex moved to be with family, to get support that she didn't have, while you were making all these great changes. Why did you not try to move closer to your children? Realize that you were a twice-a-month dad who got to have free time and dates. She did not. And you effectively chose dating and subsequently a new wife and kids over being closer to your children to get more custody than you were supposedly fighting for. So OP did add an update, and they gave a TLDR of the first part, which we'll skip over because we've just done that. The update came 8 months later and said thank you for those who continue to reach out for updates. While nothing has changed from my previous post's original question, I will always be the arsehole in my ex's eyes. I will have guilt for that for life. I will continue to try to make amends with her. I will try to do better with my wife and kids. There was an event that brought a little closure recently. My youngest child, now 18, with my ex graduates this month. My ex held a party for them at her house, which was attended by immediate family and friends from both sides. It was the first time many members of our respective families had been together since our wedding 20 plus years ago. We hosted separate parties for our oldest child's graduation 2 years ago. Overall, the party went very well. Our daughter was celebrated and felt appreciated. She said it felt a little weird to have our two worlds collide, such as when her step-siblings hung out with her maternal cousins, or having both sets of grandparents spending lots of time talking with each other and laughing. It brought a pang of guilt that my daughter didn't remember a time when her grandparents were close friends, as they were before her mother and I divorced. My wife and my ex spent time with each other and laughed a few times. My wife won't tell me what they all talked about, so my guess is they shared some common war stories about me. My ex and I had a chance to talk as well. We mostly talked about the kids and how proud we were of our daughter, how excited she is to move for college, and what our oldest child is up to. She asked what was next with our family, and I gave updates about my younger kids and their future graduations and activities. She returned that she was excited and a little anxious about having an empty nest. Her job is mostly the same but going well, and she is planning on traveling. She also casually dropped the name Mark during our conversation. Mark and I talked about doing, and I had no idea who she was talking about. Maybe he's someone she's seeing, but she didn't elaborate. I didn't pry, and the topic moved on. I suspect we each assume our kids inform the other parent about our respective life updates more than they actually do, because it didn't seem like they were trying to drop major news on me when she said it. And there was no Mark present at the party, so I really have no idea what their connection is. Near the end, I again thanked her for being a wonderful mother to our children, and briefly re-apologized for my actions years ago. She replied kindly and apologized for fighting so hard against me when I requested more visitation a decade ago. Notes: initially, I only saw the kids every other weekend with short summers. I pushed for more visitation after I remarried, had moved into a larger house that could fit everyone, and was in a position to take care of the kids for longer times. I asked for 50-50 but ended up with 40-60 after a bitter mediation. We returned to talking about the kids and the conversation mostly ended after that, and that seems like it. I don't see the need for other updates. I doubt I will see much of my ex. The kids, now adults, are both doing their own things, have their own cars, and can visit their individual parents and siblings as they wish. There are no more visitation drop-offs between my ex and I. There will probably be more college graduations and maybe eventual weddings, but beyond that our interactions are mostly finished. While we both had caused each other frustration, pain and resentment over the years after the divorce, I will always have my guilt for failing her in our marriage. In the end, we successfully raised 2 happy children and are starting their own adult lives. Each of our lives took unexpected paths to get here, but we got here nonetheless, and are proud our children made it through while feeling loved. My wife and younger kids are also happy and doing well. There are tons of updates with all of them, but those aren't relevant to this subreddit. I'm not the arsehole to them. I'm just dad and husband, although sometimes they're embarrassed and reluctant to admit to having those associations with me. Someone below this one said, I still do not understand you not moving to where your kids live to be able to get better custody schedule. You described it as a bitter mediation. You also say in the original post that the schedule wasn't 50-50 because you were too far away for day visits. Honestly sounds like you still want your ex to be a villain in that specific scenario, since she very clearly isn't in every other aspect. I'm glad your ex seemed to have made peace and seems to finally have time to get her own proper social life. Whoever Mark is to her, it seems he makes her happy. Good for her. Opie says I worked in a niche industry when we divorced which did not exist where she and her family lived. She was not working at this time, so the only money that was being made was from my niche job which I had moved up in. I spent those first few years learning new skills to switch to a more prevalent but adjacent industry, which had jobs nearer to my kids. During this time, visitation was only weekends and a few weeks in the summer because of how far I was. I eventually was able to move closer, and by then was remarried, had a house that could fit my full family, and a work schedule I could adjust around my kids' schedules. I could support 50-50 visitation at this time, but my ex refused any change to visitation, both when I talked to her about it and finally when I went through my lawyer. She admitted now that she was still resentful at the time, and that was her only reason to fight my request. She knew I made those changes to be closer to my children, and at the time didn't want to admit I was a good father to them. She may not have been a villain, but she was, by her admission, reacting out of anger, and not what was best for the children. I understand why she did it, but I was doing what I thought was best for the children, and based on where we are all now, it was the right decision. And a lot of the comments after that update were saying that you're still the arsehole in this situation. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from EndFlimsy5850, and it says, am I the arsehole for telling my girlfriend to suck it up around my clown figurines? Me, 26 male, and my girlfriend, 24 female, have been dating for 2 years. Since we started dating, she's known that I love clowns. I have several porcelain clowns displayed around my house on walls, hung from the ceiling on little swings, and on shelves. I adore these weird little creatures. Well, last week I bought 2 Venetian masks from the thrift store, and they're in great condition. I got them for a decent price too. She hates them. She said they're creepy and give her bad vibes, whatever that means. I told her that I would take down the masks when she's staying the night, but I'm not getting rid of them. She told me that was fine. Yesterday she got up and told me that we needed to talk. She told me that she's sick of seeing my weird decorations and clown toys everywhere, that they're ugly and creep her out. I asked her where all this was coming from because she's never mentioned my clowns before. And she said to me, bringing those ugly fucking masks into our home was her last straw, and my obsession with clowns was charming before, but now it's just disturbing. I told her that I would take down the masks when she was over, but 1, this isn't our home, it's my apartment, and 2, she's known about the clowns for years, and to try and stop me from decorating my place how I please is controlling. She told me, either get rid of some of them or we're done. I told her to just suck it up while she's here, and if she can't, then I'll come to her place every week. She didn't like that answer and called me a child before leaving. I texted her an apology for telling her to suck it up about the clowns, but she hasn't responded to me. So am I the arsehole for telling her to suck it up about my clown figurines? Unaffective says to this one, as someone who isn't into clowns but loves Venetian masks, I can understand being creeped out by some of them. However, her turning this into your entire interest for clowns that you've had your whole relationship makes her the arsehole. Also, if she's giving you ultimatums over how you decorate your own space based on your own interests, she's not the one. There will be someone who will appreciate your collection, if not add to it themselves. Opie says that's the crazy thing. She has bought me little clowns before. She found a print of 2 clowns kissing at an art fest and she went to and picked it up for me. Relevant Turnip says, good thing you found this out about her now. It isn't going to last. You're not the arsehole right now because it is your place. But if the relationship progresses, you're likely to have a place together. And then she won't allow it. And you'll be right back at this point, but with more feelings. Better to cut bait now and both get on with your lives. Find someone tolerant who doesn't care what your hobby is. And you can put up with her creepy 18th century gothic porcelain doll collection too. And one more comment from Strict Angle who says no one's an arsehole here. She obviously has no right to tell you how to decorate your own home. But she also is probably thinking about the future and wondering about compatibility. If I started dating a guy with a clown collection like this, I'll be real, I'd hate it from the second I saw it. But at the beginning you don't know where the relationship is going, and you're also aware that having not been together long, you have no right to interject your opinions on their own space, so you don't. But I think after 2 years and it becoming apparent that this isn't going to become less of a thing for you, I'd start to worry about when we live together that our house is going to be covered in clowns and I'd hate my own home and it wouldn't feel like mine. She's probably having these kind of thoughts and trying to find out just how important and how far this clown thing goes, so she can see if she'd be able to live like that. It's all fine when you live separately and it doesn't impact my own home, but the goal of a relationship is to live together at some point. Maybe you two need to have a serious conversation about if you can compromise on making the space something you'll both feel at home in. But I don't think either of you are the arseholes. My mum used to have a collection of those Venetian masks on the wall. And I always used to like them, but they always used to freak me out a little bit because they reminded me of the Phantos out of Mario. But OP comes in with an update and says, I wanted to clear up some things I saw in the comments. I had a small collection started by my grandparents when I was a baby. That's where I got my first swing jester. The collection has grown in the last 2 years to expand to commons decor and not just dolls. For the update, she saw the post. She read the comments and called me today. She wasn't too happy about being called the arsehole, but she apologized for being controlling. Turns out she wanted to see if I'd get rid of my collection if it meant keeping her. Like it was some relationship test. Note, she did really hate the Venetian masks and didn't like that they were hanging above my bed. I told her that if it came down between her needing me to get rid of them / sell them for expenses, then I would of course do that. But I'm not just going to get rid of my collection because someone says so. She asked if we could move on from this, and I told her no. I don't like that she tried to test my love by asking me to get rid of my collection. She left. We're officially broken up now. On the bright side, I can fill my house with more clown dolls. I even found a music box online that I might get. Thank you everyone for helping me figure out that I wasn't in the wrong, and to those saying I'm a serial killer for owning clowns. I've read quite a few comments from people collecting dead things, so I think I'm in the clear on that. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully, I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.